What's going on, guys? TomahawkWarrior here, and I'm back bringing you another historic Brawl deck in MTG Arena. Today we're running Miirym the Sentinel Wyrm. Guys, I have been waiting for this day for so long. I love dragons, and basically everything I do. I love Dragonair and Dragonite back in Gen 1 Pokemon, back when Pokemon was good. I played Red Eyes, Blue Eyes, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Up until recently I played Dragon Link. And I've always wanted to have a really good commander deck that was Dragon Tribal. Back in the day, I did try to make a deck that was Dragon Travel. It didn't work because the deck did not flow together really well. I did kind of move it into my Kalia deck. However, that deck's basically now just Angels, Demons, and some of the really good dragons, but it's not Dragon Tribal. So when they released Miirym, I was ecstatic. I do like her better than Tiamat just because of her ability, but yeah, they're both good commanders. But we're not talking about Tiamat. We're talking about Miirym. So Miirym is a 6 cost Dragon Spirit, 6/6 with Flying Ward 2. The Ward 2 is an incredibly good thing to have on the commander. Gives her protection from kill spells and bounce spells, but that isn't the best part about her. What makes her incredibly strong is her ability. Whenever another non-dragon token enters the battlefield under your control, create a token copy, except that token isn't legendary. That is incredibly powerful, guys. This allows us to get multiple ETBs, and the way that this deck is designed is to just completely abuse that ETB effect that she has to make massive boards, do really, really cool combos. If you guys want to see some of these combos, go check out my TikTok. I do have individual combos that you can do with this deck that I have started posting, and we'll look to do that for all the videos going forward. But yeah, so this deck it falls into three categories. We basically have mana rocks and mana dorks. We have big scary dragons that we want to play, and then we have token generators. We do run Dragon Master Outcast in this deck. Now, this is the one card I will say if you don't want to put in the deck, you can get rid of it. However, I like this card a lot because it's a card that if you play early enough, it's something that your opponents have to keep in their head. Okay, I do have to deal with this. And then if you do play it later, it's just like, okay, now I have to deal with this. So it does give your opponent something to fret about at least. So, Dragon Master Outcast is a 1/1 human shaman. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 6 or more lands, create a 5/5 dragon creature token with flying. Now, point of note, this will not trigger with Miirym's ability, so it is the one card that kind of doesn't work with the deck. However, the ability to constantly generate tokens is incredibly powerful, and it's good enough that I like it. You want to swap it out for Helm of the Host, go ahead. I don't put Helm of the Host in this deck just because I only have one copy of Helm of the Host in my actual real life deck, and it's in my Brewvac deck, so I don't have it in this deck. So if you want to make that switch, go ahead. Next, we do run Minion of the Mighty. It is a 0/1 Kobold with Menace. When Minion of the Mighty attacks, if you attack with creatures with power total 6 or greater, this combat, you may put a dragon creature card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. So this is a fantastic way to cheat out your really expensive dragons. As long as he's basically attacking with basically any other dragon that you're going to have in the deck. Normally he's going to attack with Miirym. You're going to trigger Minion of the Mighty, play a giant creature. Miirym will trigger, get a token copy of that creature. That token copy will not be attacking, but basically in that turn you should be doing basically 11 or more damage that turn. So incredibly powerful, great card for the deck. We do have our mana dorks. We have Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elves, both of them tap for green mana. Pretty standard. I do run one copy of Open the Gates. Search my library for basic land or gate card, reveal it, put it into my hand, then shuffle. This is just like an early game mana fixing. So if I have a lot of green and like one red but no blue, I can use this card, go get a blue, or do that for any sort of color combination. Next, we do have Metamorphic Alteration. It is a 2-cost enchantment aura. You enchant target creature. When it enters battlefield, choose a creature. It becomes a copy of that creature. So this is a way, like I said, to cheat out multiple copies of things like Terror of the Peaks, Balefire Dragon, those kind of cards that are just so impactful. And being a 2-cost, that's a great card to have. Next, we have Dragonlord's Servant. It is a 1/3 Goblin Shaman. Dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Fantastic card, making my dragons cheaper. Also, making Miirym cheaper, because she's probably going to die more than once. So, any way I can have to make her cheaper is fantastic. Next, we have Dragon's Fire. It is a 2-cost instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may reveal a dragon card from your hand or choose a dragon you control. Note, you can choose a dragon on the field, which is really nice. Dragon Fire deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If you reveal a dragon card or choose a dragon that was on your field when you cast this spell, it deals damage equal to the power of that card or creature instead. So this is a fantastic way to remove problematic planeswalker, problematic creature that your opponent won't want to attack with. So, for example, my opponent plays Platinum Angel. I reveal X Dragon card from my hand or on the board, shoot it, kill it, and then swing for game. Next, I do run Fearsome Whelp. It is a 2-cost 1/1 dragon creature with flying and haste. At the beginning of my upkeep, each dragon card in my hand permanently gains the spell cost 1 less to cast. Fantastic card to have, making my bigger dragons cheaper. Next, I do run all the different orbs that came out in this Legends of Baldur's Gate set. So I do run Orb of the Dragonkin. It is a 2-cost artifact where I can pay 1, tap it to add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast dragon spells or activate dragon abilities. Then I can pay red, tap, sacrifice Orb of the Dragonkind, look at the top 7 cards of my library, reveal a dragon card from among them, put it in my hand, put the rest on the bottom of my library in any random order. So it's a great way to just help me dig for whatever dragon creature card that I need towards the mid game when I'm not drawing heavily. So it's a good enough card that I put in the deck. You want to swap it out for a different card, go ahead. But this is the only one that I'd say I would swap out because the other orbs I think are decent enough that I keep them in the deck. Next, we have Reckless Barbarian. It is a 2/2 2-costing dragon barbarian. Basically, sacrifice Reckless Barbarian, add 2 red mana to your mana pool. Great card to just get some early mana advantage over my opponent to cast Miirym earlier or cast some other creature that I need to get out. Of course, I do run the piece of broccoli. It is a 2-cost 1/1 plant. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. If I control a creature with power 4 or greater, add 2 mana of any color instead. So great mana dork. We'll tap for 2 basically as soon as I get anything on the field that I need. I do run Incubation Druid. It is a 2-cost 0/2 Elf Druid because it does tap for 1 mana of any color that a land I control could produce. I can adapt it to give it a +1/+1 counter, and it will instead tap for 3 mana. Normally, I'm not going to adapt it, but the ability to tap for any specific color is amazing, which is why it's in the deck. Speaking of tapping for any one color, I do run Llanowar Loam Speaker. It is a 1/3 Elf Druid for 2. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. I can also tap it, target land I control becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with haste to the end of the turn. It's still a land. The turning lands into creatures isn't that big of an ability. The tapping for any color of mana is why it's in the deck. Same reason why I put Paradise Druid in the deck. It's a 2-cost 2/1 Elf Druid. Has hexproof as long as it's untapped, and it taps for 1 mana of any color. Next, I do run Scale Nurture. It is a 2-cost 0/2 Dragon Druid. Tap, add 1 green mana. When you spend this mana to cast a dragon creature spell, you gain 2 life. So it is not as good of a mana dork as the other creatures I've just mentioned above. However, I did pull it in a pack, so it goes in the deck because I wanted to keep this deck as close to the real life version of my deck as I did have. Next, we have Corsola Scale Singer. It is a 2-cost Dragon Bard 1/4. I may look at the top card of my library at any time. I may cast dragon spells from the top of my library. So it's a great blocker being a 1/4 in the early game. It's only 2 costs, so it's just a great little wall. And then the ability to look at the top of my library and cast dragon spells from the top of it is awesome. It's cheaper than the changeling, that the realm speaker changeling that allows you to do it, which is why it's in the deck over that card. Next, I do run Arcane Signet. It is a 2-cost mana rock that taps for any one color. I also run Mind Stone for the same reason. It's a 2-cost mana rock that taps for a colorless. I can pay 1, sacrifice the Mind Stone to draw a card. So it does have dual purposes, generating me colorless mana. And then if I need a draw, I can sacrifice the Mind Stone to get a card. Next, we have Lapis Dragon Orb of Dragonkin. It is a 3-cost artifact. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. When you spend this mana to cast a dragon creature spell, scry 2. The scrying 2 is really important because once I've gotten my big Miirym on the field, I want the ability to dig for specific dragon cards that I have. So there is quite a bit of drawing in the deck, and I find that the scrying really does help me because if I'm scrying and I'm seeing things that I don't need, I can put them to the bottom of my deck and draw better cards, hopefully. Next, we do have Mirror Image. It is a 3-cost 0/0 shapeshifter. You may have Mirror Image enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature you control. So this is really big. Gets me additional dragon card. The only thing is it doesn't prevent the legendary effect from happening, so you do have to be careful with that. If you do target the original that wasn't made a clone of by Miirym, you will end up having to sacrifice one of them. Not the biggest deal. If one of them has been caged or jailed, you can get rid of that and have active copy of that card on the field, but just something to keep in mind. Next, we have the Red Orb of the Dragonkin is a 3-cost artifact. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. If that mana was spent to cast a dragon creature spell, it gains haste into the end of turn. That is amazing. It is so good to have my creatures come in with haste, because that allows cards like Ancient Copper Dragon, Old Gnawbone to immediately attack. That'll activate their abilities to generate either treasure tokens or put +1s. It is just a really strong effect to have, even allowing me to cast Miirym and attack with Miirym as soon as she's played. Just a really good card to have, and something that I think the deck really needs to keep in. Next, we have Dragon Speaker Shaman. It is a 3-cost 2/2 human barbarian shaman. Dragon spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Great card to reduce the expensive dragons in the deck. Next, I do run Gadrick the Crown Scourge. It is a 3-cost 5/3 legendary dragon with flying. Gadrick the Crown Scourge can attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. Not a big deal. We do run plenty of artifacts in the deck. At the beginning of each of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. Next, I do run Fireblood. He's a 3-cost planeswalker with 3 loyalty. His plus up is either discard a card, draw a card, which is great, helps me to fix my hand and dig for my better dragon cards. I can add 2 mana in any combination of colors, spend this mana only to cast dragon spells, or I can minus them down for 7 to create 4 5/5 dragon creature tokens with flying. So, fantastic card, generates 5 flying dragons, which are great blockers, great offense, just a great toolbox card to have. Normally, you're never going to see him get to the 7 loyalties to where you can make the tokens, but the mana value that he will give you, or the ability to fix your hand, is why he makes the cut for the deck. Next, we have Jade Orb of Dragonkin is a 3-cost artifact. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. When you spend this mana to cast a dragon creature spell, it enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it and gains hexproof until the end of your next turn. The hexproof is such a crucial ability in this deck. Your big dragons come in, your opponent's going to look to get rid of them. Normally it's through bouncing, it might be a kill spell, so the hexproof just allows them to survive a little bit longer. Really screws with your opponent's mana base. Next, we have Draconic Disciple. It is a 3-cost 2/2 human shaman. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. I can pay 7, tap, sacrifice Draconic Disciple to create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. Basically, I'm never going to pay the 7 to do that, because with 7 mana, I could just cast a better dragon. But he does make the deck because he is a 2/2, which means he can actually block, and then he does tap for any 1 mana of any color, which is great. Next, we do run Chromatic Lantern. It's a 3-cost artifact. Lands you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color, and then I can tap Chromatic Lantern to add 1 mana of any color. So this helps fix our mana base, and it's just a good mana rock to have. Now, obviously, you could run something like Cold Steel instead if you want a cheaper mana rock. However, I really do like the color fixing that it does give, which is why I prefer it over other mana rocks that you could put it instead. Next, we have Dragon's Horde. Is a 3-cost artifact. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, put a gold counter on Dragon's Horde. You can tap, remove a gold counter from Dragon Horde to draw a card, or you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. So it's a fantastic card. Once you start casting your dragons, it'll allow you to draw, which is fantastic. And then in the early game, before you have the counters on, it does tap for 1 mana of any color. Next, we have Herald's Horn. It is a 3-cost artifact. When there's the battlefield, choose a creature type. You are going to choose dragon. Creature spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. So this card is great for multiple reasons. It makes your dragon creatures cost less, which is great. And then the ability to reveal cards at the top of your library. If it is a dragon card and adding that to your hand, it does not actually take up your draw phase, so it allows you to draw an additional card. If not, it is unfortunate that you will just draw a land or something, but there are enough dragon cards in the deck where normally that's not that big of an issue. Next, we do run Vile Duplication. Is a 4-cost sorcery that creates a token copy of target creature that I control, except it has flying and isn't legendary, which is huge. You will note that I do run Mythos of the Luna and Pyrexian Metamorph and Spark Double, as well as Undercover Operative. So we'll talk about all 5 of these cards right now because they all do the same thing. They all create a token copy of target creature that I control. With Spark Double, it will enter with a +1/+1 counter on it and won't count as legendary. And then with Mythos of the Luna, if I spend red-green, it will fight target creature that I have. So all these cards are great because they make another copy of whatever card I have, so that I get an additional ETB trigger on it, taking Terror of the Peaks for instance. will create a copy of Terror of the Peaks, which will then on its ETB do 5 damage to whatever problematic card my opponent has or my opponent. Big thing of note though that we have is that Icarus of the Vile Duplication and Spark Double do not actually create legendary copies of target creature, which is huge to know, because if you do try to create a copy of a legendary creature, you can't have 2 legendary creatures with the same name on the battlefield, so one of them will die, which does mean that you have to be slightly careful with Undercover Operative, Praxi Metamorph, and Mythos of the Luna. However, you don't have to be careful with Spark Double and Vile Duplication, but again, all really solid copy cards that make this deck really, really strong. Next, we have the Blazing Sun. It is a 4-cost 4/4 Flying Dragon Spirit with Trample. When it dies, choose one, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of the turn, you may play those cards or create 3 treasure tokens. So this is a great card to have. You can get it out after you get Miirym out. You play this card, it's going to create 2 copies of that, so when they both die, you're going to end up with 6 treasure tokens. Next, I do run Leyline Tyrant. It is a 4-cost 4/4 dragon creature with flying. I don't lose unspent red mana as the steps and phases end, and when Leyline Tyrant dies, I may pay any amount of red. When I do, it deals that much damage to any target, so it's a pretty good spot removal card. And then I can also save red mana throughout my phases, which allows me to play it later on in the field. So it's a strong enough card that I really like it in this deck. Next, we have Manaform Hellkite. It is a 4-cost 4/4 dragon with flying. Whenever I cast non-creature spell, create an XX red dragon illusion creature token with flying and haste, where X is the mana spent to cast that spell. Exile that token at the beginning of the next end step. So it's a good effect to have because I do run a lot of sorceries and artifact spells, as you have seen. So it will give me a little Dragon Illusion token for that turn that I can use to block or attack. Next, I do have Opportunistic Dragon. It is a 4-cost 4/3 dragon with flying. When it is battlefield, choose target human or artifact an opponent controls. For as long as Opportunistic Dragon remains on the battlefield, gain control of that permanent. It loses all abilities and can't attack or block. So it's an absolute great jail card to get rid of problematic human or artifact. So it is a little situational, however. That ability against certain commanders and or certain decks is really, really powerful, which is why I do include it in the deck. Next, I do run Thunderbreak Regent. It is a 4-cost 4/4 dragon with flying. Whenever a dragon you control becomes the target of a spell or ability and an opponent controls, Thunderbreak Regent deals 3 damage to that player. So this card is great for a couple reasons. One, it's a 4-cost 4/4 dragon with flying, which is already a fantastic stat line. But then it also has the added ability that when my opponent starts trying to deal with my dragons, it's going to start pinging them for damage. So like I said, one of the most common ways people do like to deal with this deck is to just bounce cards, because bounce cards are pretty cheap, or to counter them or kill them. One of the 3 normally. And Thunderbreak Regent will actually make them pay for that by pinging my opponent for 3 damage. 3 damage doesn't sound like a lot, but it does add up over the course of a game. Next, we have Bladewing. It is a 4-cost 4/4 legendary dragon, kicker 3 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. So, great card, because basically when it comes in the battlefield, if it's kicked, it'll create a token. Miirym will then create a token of this card. So basically for the cost of 1 dragon that was kicked, I get 3 dragons. Next, we have Young Blue Dragon. It is a 4-cost 3/4 dragon card. I can cast it for its adventure cost. For 2, I scry 1, then draw a card. And then I can cast it for its 5 cost, where it is a 3/4 flying dragon. Now, this is not an outstanding dragon card. The reason I do put it in the deck is for the adventure cost, so that I can scry 1 and draw a card. 2 costs for scry and draw is not a bad amount of mana to pay for that. And then if absolutely necessary, after I've used its adventure cost, I can play this as just another dragon to have. However, if you'd rather just put a dedicated draw card in, by all means go ahead. Next, I do run Body Double. It is a 5-cost 0/0 shapeshifter. I may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature card in my graveyard. So this card is a fantastic way to get my cards that have been either milled or killed back on the field, because I do not run any resurrection in this deck. I just don't feel that there's room for it. So Body Double is a great way to bring back said cards. So I can bring back Ancient Copper Dragon, Niv Mizzet, Drakuseth, insert really cool dragon here. So it's a great card to have for that. Or I can use it to copy one of my opponent's cards that's in the graveyard that my dragons crashed into and died to. Or if they're self-milling it, I can steal something from the graveyard. Just a great all-around utility card for the deck. Next, I have Desert Doom. It is a 5-cost 5/5 legendary dragon with flying. As long as it's untapped, it has Ward 4, which is incredibly powerful. And then when it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. If I have fewer than 3 cards in my hand, draw cards equal to the difference. So a great card to have in the mid game when I've just basically played a bunch of cards. I have very few cards in my hand. This card will help me to regain cards in the hand to gain card advantage over my opponent. So good card to have. And then, like I said, that Ward 4 is incredibly powerful. Next, I do run Demanding Dragon. It is a 5 cost 5/5 dragon with flying. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage to target opponent unless that opponent sacrifices a creature. Now, most people aren't going to be sacrificing creatures, so when Demanding Dragon enters the battlefield with Miirym out on the field as well, this is going to be a total of 10 damage that my opponent's going to take, which can win you a game and catch your opponent off guard, or it will cause them to sacrifice 2 creatures that I'm going to assume they didn't want to sacrifice. Next, we have Goldspan Dragon. It is a 5 cost 4/4 dragon creature with flying and haste. When Goldspan Dragon attacks or becomes the target of a spell, create a treasure token. Treasures you control have tap, sacrifices artifact, add 2 mana of any color. That's great, allowing my treasure tokens to become even better than they already were. And I mean, a 4/4 dragon with haste is not a bad card by any stretch of the imagination. Having Miirym out gives me 2 of these dragons so that when they attack, I'll get 2 treasure tokens, which I can then sacrifice for 4 mana. Next, I do run Rapturous Dragon. It is a 5 cost 3/3 dragon card with flying. When it enters battlefield, create 2 treasure tokens. Now, it is pretty expensive to pay the 5 mana for this card. However, if I do have Miirym already on the field, this will create 4 treasure tokens, which is a little bit more malleable. If you do want to swap this out for something that produces either treasure, forces cards to fight, go ahead, because this is more of just a flavor card in the deck that I personally put in because I like the card. Next, we have Terror of the Peaks, one of the absolute standout cards of the deck. It is a 5 cost 5/4 dragon with flying. Spells your opponent casts that target Terror of the Peak costs an additional 3 life to cast, so it has its own built-in protection. And then whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peak deals damage equal to that card's power to any target. So this is a fantastic card because on the cast, as long as Miirym's out, Miirym will create a copy of Terror of the Peaks, which will then trigger the original Terror of the Peaks to shoot 5 damage on enter or on ETB to either destroy a problematic card or ping your opponent. Once Terror of the Peak and the Terror of the Peak token are on the field, casting any dragon is going to trigger both tokens from the initial cast. Miirym will then create a token copy of that card, which will trigger the Terror of the Peaks and the Terror of the Peaks token to then ping your opponent again. So it is an incredibly powerful card for this deck to run. If you're able to copy it with another spell, you're just able to ping your opponent for ludicrous amounts of damage, or just completely wipe their board of everything, leaving them in a basically a no-win scenario. So it's a really, really good card to have. Next, we have the Boundless Skies. It is a 5 cost 4/4 legendary dragon spirit with flying and death touch. When it dies, you can choose one, search your library for up to 3 land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. Or you can create X green sprite creature tokens where X is the number of lands you control. So this card is actually kind of problematic for people to deal with because it does have flying. It can deal with most things that your opponent can throw at it except for something that has menace, but the death touch makes it so that your opponent doesn't really want to crash into it with anything useful, because even if they do, you just get a XX green spirit token that is going to be a minimum of a 6/6, which kind of replaces itself, if not makes it slightly better. So this card is really strong to have in the deck, I have found at least. And I mean, worst case scenario, you get to thin your deck and get a bunch of land cards to your hand. Next, we have Thraxus the Butcher. It is a 5 cost 3/4 dragon peasant with trample. Whenever Thraxus the Butcher attacks, double the power of each dragon you control until the end of turn. So this is a really strong card because it will double already strong dragons, and then if you've had Miirym on the field when you cast this, it's going to create 2 copies of that, which are going to, trigger twice. So you're going to get double the power. So you're basically one-shotting your opponent at that point. So really, really strong card. Next, we have Ancient Copper Dragon, one of the standout cards of the deck. It is a 6 cost 6/5 Elder Dragon with flying. Whenever Ancient Copper Dragon deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20, create a number of treasure tokens equal to the result. So that's incredibly powerful. As long as you get a roll of basically above 5, you're able to cast another dragon with the treasure tokens generated by this card. And then with Miirym on the field, you're going to get 2 of these. If they both attack and get through, you're casting, you're going to be generating a ton of treasure tokens, allowing you to cast a bunch of cards. And basically from that point, you should have such advantage that your opponent will either board wipe or kind of just F6. Next, we have Lathis, the Dragon Queen. She's a 6 cost, 6/6 flying legendary dragon. Whenever a non-token dragon enters the battlefield under your control, create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. I can pay 1 in a red. Dragon I control get +1/+0 until the end of turn. So this is fantastic. Dragon cards you're going to be casting are already going to be triggering with Miirym to get you a token of whatever that card is. But then Lathis is also going to give you just a 5/5 dragon token for playing the game, which is incredibly strong to build up a strong board, swing for game, and then if necessary, she also is a bit of a game winner by letting your dragons get more powerful for mana. Next, we have Tyrant of the Ridges. It is a 6 cost 4/5 dragon with flying. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage to any target. I can pay 1 red. It gains +1/+0 until the end of turn. So the reason that this card is in the deck is because of its ETB of dealing 4 damage to any target. With Miirym on the field, that's 8 damage to any specific target or 4 damage divided between 2 targets, which is a really good effect to have. Helps deal with problematic cards and helps to kill your opponent's board. Next, I do have Niv in the deck. It is a 6 cost 5/5 Dragon Wizard with flying. The spell can't be countered, which is fantastic. And then whenever I draw a card, Niv deals 1 damage to any target. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery card, I draw a card. So I found Niv to be a great utility card to have. One of the ways I found people try to deal with the dragon deck, because none of these dragons have trample, is to put up a bunch of 1/1 creatures with flying that are either fairies, Thopters, what have you. Niv just helps to ping all those little blockers down. And then the one card that I don't have in the deck, Curiosity, if it were in the deck and I use it with Niv, it is an infinite combo, which would win the game by itself. However, I don't have it in this deck specifically. So I do lose a little bit of advantage with the card. However, the 5/5 uncounterable dragon that Niv is, I think is well worth putting in the deck. And then, like I said, the drawing that this card gives is really good because, like I said, with Miirym, you're going to be casting a lot of cards a lot quicker than what you're going to think with all the mana rocks and cards that are going to generate artifacts and make cards cheaper to cast. Niv a great card just to help you refill your hand with other cards. Next, I do run Sword. Coastal Serpent is a 7 cost 6/6 Serpent Dragon. I can cast it for its adventure cost of 2. Return target creature to its owner's hand. I can then cast it for its 7 mana cost, where it becomes a 6/6 Sea Serpent Dragon that can't be blocked as long as you've cast a non-creature spell this turn. The non-adventure cost for this card is a little much. 7 cost for a 6/6 dragon that can't be blocked if I've cast a non-dragon spell isn't the greatest. However, I do like having a 2 cost bounce card in my hand that is a dragon. So if need be, I can bounce something problematic in the later game, cast this card, which with Niv will make another one, helping to balance out its hefty mana cost, which is why I do have it in the deck. Having something that bounces opponents' cards is great. Having it on a dragon, I found to be a little bit extra that makes it so worth putting in the deck. The red. Next, we do have Drakoseth Maw of the Flame. It is a 7 cost 7/7 flying legendary dragon. Whenever Drakoseth Maw of the Flame attacks, it deals 4 damage to any target and 3 damage to each of up to 2 other targets. Drakoseth, in and of itself, in a standard deck, is a pretty good board control card. Combine it with Miirym, with 2 Drakoseths attacking, it basically equates to a board wipe. This card is incredibly strong, incredibly powerful. There's no reason to not put in the deck other than it is a very expensive dragon. However, once you've cast Drakoseth, you're basically looking to end the game the following turn. So I think it's well worth putting in the deck. Next, we have Old Gnawbone. It is a 7 cost 7/7 legendary dragon with flying. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create that many treasure tokens. So like I said, dragons are really expensive cards to have, so having cards like Old Gnawbone that will generate treasure tokens is incredibly strong. Combine this with Miirym generating double the amount of treasures is just, it's too good to pass up in my mind. Next, we do have Jenny's Ultimatum, one of the sleeper cards of this deck. This card used to run ranked, standard ranked back in the day. You see it in Ujin decks or decks that wanted to cheat out, really big creatures. So I thought, why not put it in dragons? It is a hefty mana cost to cast for 7 with very specific mana that needs to be cast with. However, looking at the top 5 cards of your library and putting any number of permanent cards from among them onto the battlefield and the rest in your hand is incredible. This allows you to put things like dragons, mana rocks, lands, what have you, onto the battlefield. And then any instant or sorcery card that you get it to your hand. So it's an incredibly powerful card to have. I could not say enough good things about this, and I've yet to see this card go off where I've not at least gotten 2 dragon cards to the field or gotten enough value off it to where the following turn I was just able to while out and my opponent was unable to recover. Next, we do have Ancient Silver Dragon. It is a 8 cost 8/8 flying elder dragon. When Ancient Silver Dragon deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20. Draw cards equal to the result. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. So this card is great and also slightly risky at the same time. Because it does refill your hand with a ton of cards. However, if you have Miirym and you cast this card, you're going to have 2 Ancient Silver Dragons. I would suggest only attacking with one of them, or you will start drawing a ludicrous amount of cards that may actually result in you decking yourself out quicker than you might think. So do be careful. Next, we do have the Great Henge. It is a 9 cost legendary artifact. However, this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. As most of my dragons are coming in at 5/5s, this means this card will cost 5 less to cast. If I get stuff like Old Gnawbone or Ancient Silver Dragon, this spell will cost just 2 green. I can tap it to add 2 green mana to my mana pool, also gaining 2 life. Whenever I cast a non-token creature, it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, and I draw a card. So this card is everything that I want in a card. It gives me mana, it gives me life, it gives me a +1/+1 on my dragons when they come in, and helps to refill my hand by drawing a card. A fantastic artifact that would be worth paying a lot of mana for. However, the fact that it costs X less to cast when I cast big creatures makes it just an auto include in every deck that I can put it in. And finally, we do run Earthquaker Dragon. It is a 15 cost dragon. It is a, of course, 10/10 elemental dragon for that cost with flying and trample. However, this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value among dragons you control not named Earthquaker Dragon. So this card becomes insanely cheap to cast insanely quickly. I can also pay 2 and a green to sacrifice a land and then return Earthquaker Dragon from my graveyard to my hand. So it also has the ability to return to my hand for the cost of 3 mana and land. So this is an incredibly powerful card because it's going to come in a lot cheaper than 15 mana. Normally I'm going to be casting it for probably maximum of about 4 mana. So I get for 4 mana, I get a 10/10 flying trample dragon. This card can just end games by itself, and again, the fact that it becomes cheaper makes it just an auto include in the dragon deck. And then finally, we have probably the most diverse amount of land cards that I've ever had in a deck. We have 8 islands, 9 mountains, 9 forests, 1 Riverscale Pathway, 1 Steam, 1 Storm Carved Coast, 1 Cray Crown Pathway, 1 Rockfall Vale, 1 Stomping Ground, 1 Bark Channel Pathway, 1 Breeding Pool, 1 Dream Root Cascade, 1 Command Tower, 1 Secluded Courtyard, and 1 Temple of the Dragon Queen. So basically all the lands are in here to just be able to tap for not just one color of land, but an additional color, like Steam Vents, which taps for a red or a blue. So all in all, this deck is incredibly strong, incredibly powerful, very creature heavy with 44 creatures in the deck and 38 lands. I do run 2 more lands than normal because I think that you just need to have a consistent mana base in the deck, and I found that 36 was enough. 38 is just the perfect number. So yeah, let's check out some gameplay, and I'll catch you guys at the outro.
Girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. Girls with their nails done. Girls with their nails done.
Alright guys, there we have it. That was my Dragons Go Burr Miirym the Sentinel deck. Guys, this deck is so much fun. It has such a powerful commander with a pretty broken effect, all honesty. Making non-legendary copies of incredibly powerful cards like Old Gnawbone, Drakuseth, Ancient Copper Dragon, Terror of the Peaks is incredibly powerful. You guys got to see one of the really good examples of why Terror of the Peaks is such an extremely powerful card in this deck. And like I said, guys, this deck is a lot of fun. You get to do a lot of fun shenanigans with it. I was very excited to make this deck, not just in MTG Arena, but in real life. If you guys are interested in picking up a deck very similar to this, go check out the Commander's Quarters. Mitch put out a video, a budget version of a Miirym Sentinel deck, and that really inspired me to make this deck. So massive shout out to Mitch, and thank you for being as awesome as you are, Mitch. Hopefully you guys liked the video. If you did, make sure you guys drop a like and a comment down below. Tell me how I can improve this deck, guys. Because like I said, I do own this deck in real life. I'm always interested to see how I can make my decks better, how I can make them more competitive. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.